Okay, we're up and running. So what we're going to do first is we're just going to just kind of go through just a couple slides, just some notes and things we wanted to cover before we get started. And hopefully you all can hear me okay. Um, so what employee self-service is basically the replacement for the kiosk, with the exception of the ippy-dippy piece. When I think of this, I don't know if I call it a migration per se, maybe more of a conversion, just because this is the first time that we've had an application that wasn't originally a state software application like USAS and payroll and inventory. So I may say migration, I may say conversion, so forgive me if I say both. Um, but with this, we're right now, we're going to have the ability, we're going to have the kiosk options as well as being able to, people there, um, with the being able to have the timesheet option as well. So the ippy-dippy portion is going to remain in kiosk. So they are still going to be using kiosk for their ippy-dippy entries. And then I think that's going to be around until July of 2025 in order to give districts and ITCs time to find a suitable replacement. So everything else will come over except for ippy-dippy. Also, you guys have probably heard that already, that we are going to have an early access release, and that will start next month. But one thing we wanted to talk about is that for this early access, it's going to be for entities using that aren't using timesheet and frontline absence management. So timesheets aren't available yet. They won't be until our first production release. And right now we are still discussing with Frontline the integration piece for their absence management, formerly known as ASOP software. So that isn't available. So for those districts that are using Frontline right now, they won't be available. They won't be eligible for the early access release until we get that all resolved. Matt, if you're on the call here, if you have anything further you want to add to that, but I believe that's where we're currently at with absence management.
Yeah, correct. So with with timesheets, we still have a bit of work that we're doing, development work, on that particular feature of the application. There's currently only 6 kiosk users that are actually using the legacy kiosk timesheet feature. So as a result, that's obviously not going to exclude many people from being able to use or to participate in the early access release of the software. I will say, I don't know if it will necessarily be all the way to the first production release before we have timesheets available. We will definitely have it. We will definitely have both frontline integration and the timesheet functionality available before or as of the first production release. But as with all of our products, we're going to continue. I mean, sort of part of the early access phase. There's kind of two things that it provides. One is it does allow ITCs to begin migrating or converting, testing that process, fairly early, so that when the production release comes, hopefully we'll have, a lot of those kinks worked out. And then additionally, it gives us that sort of feedback loop where there's inevitably going to be things that we don't catch in our internal testing that are going to crop up as we roll this out into production. So we'll have, between May and July to resolve any issues that might be discovered. And yeah, as Michelle said, we're working with Frontline currently. I actually have a meeting set up with them later this afternoon to try and to finalize exactly how this integration is going to work. And also on timesheets, we just recently received the actual extract data formats from the kiosk side, so we need to complete the imports for that information as well. Yeah, but I think that pretty much covers those two particular features. Oh, one other thing I was going to say is that we've been talking internally, and also if you as an ITC currently use the kiosk for your own uh, leave tracking purposes, we would suggest it would be a good idea if the ITC themselves actually goes onto the new employee self-service at some point in the early access, just because ITCs, typically you're probably not using the frontline integration or the timesheet functionality for one thing. And also that just, as we like to say internally, we will eat our own dog food. So it gives us the opportunity to be on the product ourselves and use it as an end user. And we are planning to do the same here at the management council and convert to employee self-service as part of the early access. So
Thanks, Matt. We will be watching the chat. So if you guys have questions along the way, you can put them in chat, or you can ask them as we go along here. We will have a newsletter, a feature article on the next newsletter regarding ESS. So be on the lookout for that. I'm hoping to have that out this weekend. And with that, we will have a link to a short demo. Now, this demo is just it's like a 15-minute demo that just basically shows the options as a standard user in there. How, when they log in, what are their options available for them? How do they create leave? How do they view their existing leave? And so we kind of left it at that. We didn't want to get too deep into the weeds about if you're a supervisor, this is what you do, blah, blah, blah. We just wanted to show just a regular user going in and using the software, how they go about maneuvering in the system. So like I said, I tried to keep it down to under 15 minutes, but it I think will be helpful just for, the end user to see that and just see that it looks pretty similar to the way it did in kiosk. So that, should be coming out. Plus, I think it's just nice having this article out here just because we're all on the same page then, right? If we have an article in the newsletter saying this is where we're currently at. So, like I said, be on the lookout for that soon. Also, and like Matt said, we will have the ability to load some of the kiosk data into ESS. So there will be obviously initial setup. And I know that Mark has been working on an installation guide that will be available in the wiki as well. So we definitely will have information out there with steps and how to get things set up to convert your districts over into the ESS system.
Michelle, sorry, real quick, just want to interject. I received a chat message and I just wanted to kind of address it to the group because I think it's important information to convey. But somebody was asking if they could be signed up for the early access release, and we're not limiting early access in any way. So we're looking at May 3rd as the exact date of when we'll release the first early access version. So the deployment model is similar to all our other applications in that we'll provide the artifacts in our Artifactory server, which is what we use to distribute that to ITCs. And then, if you're hosting with the management council, the DCO team has been working to create the VRA options that will be necessary for you to stand up your own instances of the employee self-service application. And then we'll have scripting for locally hosted ITCs as well. But essentially, once we release, anybody that wants to go on early access, be it an ITC or if you want to move any of your districts onto the early access, that will be completely at your discretion. So we are not, we are not limiting that, so to speak. So anybody that wishes to participate in the early access release can do so. And also it probably is important to mention that once you're on the early access version, in theory, I mean, if you wanted to just test it, you certainly could. You wouldn't have to make that your production version moving forward. But assuming you are actually converting onto employee self-service, and once that conversion is done, you intend to use that as your live solution, there will be no future conversion necessary. So essentially, once you're on it, and it will work just like our other products. And that as we push releases through the development period. Those will be distributed, and then you'll have the ability to update your instances to those newer versions.
Thank you. Today's agenda, you're looking at it right here. These are the menu options that we will be covering. We're logging in as an administrative account admin role, so you'll be able to see pretty much everything, just like you're used to with the other applications. The user manual is evolving, so there's a lot to be done in the user manual, and that's our focus, is to get that done and get it updated as much as we can ASAP. I have to tell you, we've lots of changes going on. In fact, the instance that we're going to show you today has been updated since then. And we just updated this earlier this week. So that tells you the amount of changes that are taking place weekly on the ESS application. So when you're in there, and able to, to set one up, you're going to see some additional things that we didn't cover today because it's newer. It's exciting. But we will try to give you pretty much an overall review of this. But yes, today is a preview. Deeper dive trainings tomorrow, meaning we will be doing more trainings. Today's it's not considered really a training, it's an overview. We can't get too deep into things because there's just a lot to cover and it would be overwhelming, I think. So we just want to, show you an overview of this, and then we will schedule sessions later, maybe do a deeper dive on groups and group chains, and users, and just getting comfortable with the roles and stuff like that. So we don't have all of those scheduled yet. I think it's going to be kind of a wait and see approach, depending on feedback from you guys as to, what you're wanting to see. But I think we'll definitely have a couple, going through, probably the workflows and stuff like that and focusing on that. A lot of this is pretty basic too. So, but we'll get into the more complex stuff and do some training sessions on that. Also, obviously, the session is being recorded, so we will have this out here on YouTube and on our registration page as well. Okay, so enough about this. I'm going to go ahead and shut down my PowerPoint. Oh, you don't want to see that yet. But where I'm at right now is I'm getting into basically our home page when you log into ESS. And I'm going to be showing you some of this, but Mary Adams, and you all know Mary because she has done, she is currently doing support for kiosks, and Mary is going to be helping out with support for ESS as well. So we're very grateful to have her on the team. And so I'm going to show you a few things, and then Mary's going to take you into some menu options as well. So we'll go ahead and we'll get started here. And I am going to be referring to my notes back and forth here. Mary and I are learning the system as well, going through here and getting familiar with things. So what we don't know, we will make note of and we'll get back with you. I know Matt and Mark are on the call as well, so feel free, you guys, to interject at any time and give them any information that will be helpful. But we're not going to go right down the menu here. What we've decided to do is kind of go into the system menu first, because it'll make some of these other options make sense and kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together by seeing what the system options will do first. So we're going to start with system, and then I'm going to follow up with a couple options in the user menu. And then Mary's going to get into the nitty gritty of some of this, go through the options up here, the profile options, position, employee profile, and then she'll get into the leave requests. She'll get into the groups and group chains. So again, we have a lot of information to cover today, but hoping that you guys walk away with just feeling a bit more comfortable with the system. Okay, so I'll get started here. So our system menu, so when I click on this, and this is going to change a little bit. I know that kind of condensed things. We've got that fixed already. We already did that this week. Um, so everything will stay, the same, and we won't see this double scroll bar here. But in the system, this is for specific roles, obviously. So if you have the admin role, which all of you will have an admin role when you create an account in ESS. So you'll be able to see the system menu as well as a district manager role. And we'll get into roles in a little bit later, but admin and district manager roles will be able to see all the options underneath the system menu. And the first one, I'm going to just touch upon some of these. I think some of the options within these options I may not cover because they're things you already see in the other applications. So I won't bore you with those, but I just want to get into the things that are kiosk related, basically. So the app log is, you guys are familiar with an app log because you see that in USAS and payroll as well. We have them in the UI that you can look them up. So we have app log in here as well. This one probably looks just a little bit differently because it's in a different framework than it is in the US XS programs. But in here you can filter. So if I wanted to see just errors, I could just hone in on that and I can filter on the message. And what's nice about this is we're not going to be using like wildcards like the percent signs in here. I think you can just start entering in what you're exactly looking for and it will filter on that. So if there's a certain message, and you're, looking for that, then it will filter down into that. I know this application, our version right here, doesn't have that capability, but I believe they've already fixed that since then. So you can just start entering in and anything that contains whatever you're entering will be filtered on and displayed. So that's the app log in a nutshell. The configuration option, we're going to skip that right now because there's a lot that I want to talk about in there. So I'll just go through more of the easier options first before we get into configuration. Date codes are used with the custom date codes in USPS. So if you've got a date code created for FBI checks, then you can pull that information into here. So I'm just going to show you this one that I already created. I am going to get rid of my menu here. Go. And so in here, I have created one already and entered in the date code name and the description. And if I go in and actually edit it here, and it's going to, the date code, it would prompt me to pull in the date code from USPS. And you'll see here I have expiration terms, the days before expiration to notify the user, excuse me, the notification message that I want to show when they are notified that, it's their FBI check needs to be renewed. Do I want to activate this? So let's say I did create a date code, I'm no longer using it anymore. I can just uncheck that so that it no longer is activated. And then it shows the last time that this has been updated, just detailed information. So what happens then is for a particular user, so what happens then is if employee has the FBI check date on their core employee record, basically they're going to receive a notice in here, letting them know that, and because I had 30 days, it'll notify them in 30 days within the date of the renewal date to let them know that their FBI check there's time for them to renew it. So that's just something out there that, is a little extra feature that districts can use in ESS. I believe they had something similar in kiosk as well, that they can go in and create these notifications. Now, the actual notification message, I don't think is in place yet, or it may have been in place. It may be fixed now based on our instance, but that part is, not out there quite yet, but obviously by the time you guys get it, it'll be in place. So that's the date codes. The kiosk load is where you're going to go in and import those extracts from kiosk. Now it's going to be in a CSV format, and basically, if I go in here to the load options, these are the loads that we have from kiosk right now. There are others in place, and they're probably already in here, but you can load the extracts that we're going to get from kiosk will be a user extract. So you'll be able to import existing users from kiosk into ESS. That'll save a lot of time. That those will get set up automatically. Also, kiosk subcategories, any URLs that they had in kiosk, maybe their district's website or URLs to manuals and stuff like that, and other websites that the district had in kiosk, those can be loaded in as well. And I believe we have a few others too. We're going to have, see, we got users, subcategories, the custom links, which is the URLs. And also we're going to have the ability to import kiosk groups and their group chains, their workflow information. So that is a big help because that information will get loaded in. Also, we're going to have a mass loader option that's kind of separate from this that will allow districts, once you load in their user account information, if for some reason when that loads in, it's going to take their kiosk username, right, as their ESS username then. But if the district wants to change those for some reason, maybe Active Directory is a reason why they want to change those. Once those original kiosk usernames are loaded in here, we're going to have an option for you to extract the users out of ESS, make those updates to the username, and import them back in. So if the district's wanting them to use their Active Directory username, that can be done. So, and that will be kind of a separate option from this. So, once you guys set up the containers and get the instances up and going, we have those steps. Those steps will be provided in our installation guide to tell you then when you're able to go in and import these CSV files from kiosk. So that'll all be spelled out in our installation guide. The organization is the organization information, just like we have in the other applications. This isn't going to be something you're going to import in from whatever they had in kiosk. Kiosk had everything underneath their organization, right? There are all kinds of areas there. So we're just looking at the specific information about the district's address information and such. There's not a lot here, right? So they'll be able just to go in and set this up. It'll take them a couple minutes. So not a whole lot there. So that's why we didn't think an import from kiosk is critical on something like this. All right, test connection. This is also going to be part of the installation steps, is testing this out to make sure that, admit somebody here, to make sure that the USPS connection and the workflows connection they're talking to ESS. So very important part. And again, that's all the details about those connections are included in the installation guide. And I keep talking about the installation guide, but maybe I should actually show that to you guys. So ta-da, this is the installation guide. I'm not sure if it's public yet or not. I'm not 100% sure yet, but this is what Mark has been working on. And so we're going to have it out there. And it's going to be also included under the areas where we have the ESS user manual. We'll have a link to this. But I believe with the installation guide, this may be a protected page. So you guys may need to log in to the wiki in order to see this information. But yes, it'll go in and explain all of this and the setup. So here are the the steps. Obviously, these may change, but this is what we have right now in regards to this. So again, all of the test connections are part of this. So I think it's part of the post-install procedures. And so, yeah, you guys are familiar with, the connections. We have a test connection with inventory with USAS. We have test connections with the workflows in both USPS and USAS in regards to onboarding and requisition approval workflows. So same thing going on here. Test emails. And so if you, there is a configuration option that needs to be set up to get emails to work. And then if, for some reason somebody sends a message to you and says, I submitted a leave and I didn't get my email. Then, and if you checked it out and it didn't go into their spam folder or whatever, you can do a test email by using this option. Enter that person's email address that is used, that is stored here in ESS, and create a test email. And then confirm, if there really is an actual issue. So that's what that's all about.
Michelle, we had a question in chat about if workflows will have to be set up for each district before setting up ESS. The answer to that is yes, you will have to have a workflows instance created that the employee self-service application can use. I believe, and maybe Mark can chime in on this for those that are self-hosting, but I'm fairly certain with the VRA options, it gives you the ability to automatically configure both the USPS and workflows connection. So setting that up as part of the tooling that's been created to stand up employee self-service. And then I'm thinking that's probably just handled via an environment variable for those that are self-hosted. But Mark, I don't know if you can clarify that slightly. Or not. But yeah, I'm fairly certain that's the case. So, but the answer is yes, you have to have a workflows instance for employee self-service to connect to, because all of the leave flow and all of that is handled by the same workflows. It's the same workflows engine that you are currently using for USAS and USPS if you're using those. So it's not a completely new instance of our workflows app, but it will have to be a per school, per district, per entity workflows instance that employee self-service will connect to.
Sorry, my system muted my mic, not just Zoom. Anyway, Matt is correct. You will need workflows, but you only need a single workflows application for per district. So, USAS, payroll, and ESS will all connect to the same workflows app. The installation guide does not specify versions yet that you'll need to be on for the different applications, just for specific REST APIs that have to be in place. I will add that once I know what release we're naming that. But yeah, workflows will have to be on, we'll say 2.0. Payroll will have to be on 2024.7.0. And then there's a few items that have to go into their configuration files so they can talk to each other.
All right, thank you. While we have you guys on the line here, the USPS data sync, is that something that's going to stay in here, or is that something we are going to be removing?
You can go ahead and click that. We will be keeping this. It will be updated to show a little bit more job information. The position sync is probably something you're only going to need to do the first time after you've imported your users, but the leave balances, there's actually a job that will sync those nightly. And there's a chance that you might need a manual sync, so that is why we are leaving this option in here. but right now it doesn't show a lot of data, just that it completed or did not complete. We plan to add things like last run time, next scheduled run, if that's an option, etc.
Thanks, Mark. All right. I am going to go back now into the configuration. I did skip that one, because there's a lot in here. And so some of these are things, like I said, that are available already in USAS and payroll and stuff. So I'm not going to go over those again because you are familiar with those. But I want to touch upon the things that are coming from kiosk. Obviously, application configuration is something that we already have available in the other programs. If I just view it, you'll see, this looks familiar, the different instance types and stuff like that. So so that's going to be working the same. The default substitute for appointment type configuration, for those of you that are familiar or somewhat familiar with the kiosk product, this, I believe, is going to go away, and instead it's going to be moved to the leave type configuration down here. So I think we're going to be removing this. I thought I had the JIRA issue number 425. So I think you won't be seeing this anymore, and it will be included as part of the leave type. But it's where you can require the default substitute information on the leave request to be checked for either certified or classified employees. So it works similar to the way it did in kiosk. The ESS functionality, again, if you're familiar with when you click on the district in kiosk and it brought up all of the organizational information, off to the upper right-hand side, if I can remember, was the functionality configuration menu. And basically, this is controlling what is being displayed on the menus for the most part. So when I first logged in, there was an announcement board off to the left-hand side for the district to post any announcements periodically. Mary will get into that a little bit later. But if district isn't going to use it, they can just uncheck this and it won't show up on the home screen. Some of this we do need to clean up still. This ITC, and this is no longer valid. Obviously, the ippy dippy stuff is not an ESS, so we'll be cleaning up and removing some of these things. But if the district isn't going to have pay slips as an option for the district to view their pay stubs, they can uncheck this and they won't even see the menu option when the user logs in. So this is just basically controlling for the most part the menu options available for the users. Obviously, when a user logs in, they're going to see different options depending on their role. And like I said, we'll get into rules in a little bit. But yeah, they're going to see different options depending on that. Email configuration, similar to what you already have set up in USAS and payroll. And once this is set up, that's where I talked about the test emails that can be done to test things out. Let's see, employee profile and position details, and I think leave balance details. That will basically allow you to include or exclude certain areas of those. So if I go back to the employee profile and I click on this, when like a standard user logs in, they're going to see their employee profile information from USPS. So if there are specific things, and it's going to show, basically what it did in kiosk, same information. But if there are certain things that the district decides that they don't want to show on there, they can uncheck those specific areas, and those areas of the employee profile record will not appear, will not be displayed in here. So that's what this one's doing. Same thing with the position details. A lot of different areas of the position that are displayed. And again, that's pulling from the USPS position information. And so if there are certain things they don't want to be displayed. In ESS, they can uncheck those. By default, it'll display everything. And the same thing with the leave information here. I think it's this one. Yes, the leave balance. When we show you the leave information up here in the menu and a little bit later, it's going to contain all of these. So if they, don't want to, the unit in there or something like that, they can uncheck those and those won't be displayed. So that's all those are doing, is just kind of controlling what they see within those certain options. Leave jump back up here. I don't want to skip anything. Forgot password config. So we've got something similar in the other applications as well. So this basically is just, allowing them to control the forgot password configuration. So when they do need to use that forgot password, right now it's set up by default 5 minutes until that expires. And what's the password length, things like that. So districts can set those up to what they want it to be. The job status configuration. So this is going to show on the position record what jobs they want to be displayed for that specific employee. So if they just want active and inactive jobs to show underneath the position option, then they can just check mark those. Okay. Leave balances, we already talked about, I believe, yes. Leave expense configuration. So when we get down to the leave type information configuration, you're going to be able to control on the various leave types, different options. And so with the leave expenses configuration, there is in kiosk, we had the ability classified mileage rates and others, so certified mileage rates. So those got brought over in here as well. And so, and I kind of think of a leave expense configuration tied to professional leave. So in the leave type configuration, we can set it up so that when they create a leave request for professional leave, we want the leave expense configuration to appear on the leave request and they can fill that information out. So this controls what they do see on the leave request when they're filling out their leave expense configuration. So, they can put in whatever they want for here, and then it just shows them what all you want them to fill out and see in here. So the district can control that. And I believe we're going to go through an example of one today with professional leave, so you can kind of see how that leave expense looks like on an initial leave request. Okay. Leave request workflow configuration. So what this has to deal with is it allows you to customize the emails that are going to be sent for leave requests. And it's kind of neat. And everything's already preset, so you don't have to change these things. But what I like about this is you can hover over and it's going to exactly tell you that this one is the email that is sent to the leave request submitter when they, submit their leave, and it gives them the email information. So if I just click on this, it will basically, if I go in and create a leave request, I'm going to get an email saying, hey, your leave request was initiated. A leave request has been submitted with the following details. And then we've got this, I don't know, I'm going to call it token information up here that it's going to pull from. So this one right here is going to basically then input the details of your leave. So it's going to take that information from your leave request and put it in here so that when I get that email, I can see, oh, yeah, my leave request was initiated. It did go through. I got the email for it. And, and it has the details of what I entered in when I submitted that request. So we've got it for the person that submitted it. We have the standard email that'll be sent to the person that needs to approve it. Again, with, those different token information. What's nice about this one is It includes the employee's leave request details, and it also includes the ESS website link, so they can just click on it to go and approve that employee's leave. So again, we have lots of different ones down here, but that's where all of this is stored. And if the district wants to add some stuff in here, so it appears on the emails, this is where they do that. I do have a question here about, will passwords expire? I believe that they would. I don't know if Mark, you can comment on that, but I believe it would be similar to what we have in the other applications.
Yes, there's a password expiration on the user that is optional to set up. And I was just trying to verify if we also have a default config. But I cannot remember.
Is this it?
Sorry, which one? Yeah, there we go. That probably could look a little better. Let me take a note there. Yes, that's the default. So when you are setting up your users and the passwords get changed, I believe that is what we use to determine when it will expire automatically. And then if you want to show the user, you can just wait and show it when we get there. There is an option to enter an expired date and time, just like all of our other applications.
Are you talking about the profile record?
No, I'm talking about right here. We have password expiration and account expiration.
Gotcha. Awesome. Another question here, will there be a way to mass reset them when a district migrates? I believe we do have an issue out there for a bulk reset of the passwords. When we get into, I think the users, I think I'll provide that JIRA issue number. Great question.
The issue has been worked. It's in review. I don't know if it will make the 1.0 release, but it will be very shortly after. The reset will not set them to the same passwords. We are auto-generating passwords, and they expire after a configurable amount of time. I think the default is 5 minutes, and then they'll get an email with that temporary password, and then when they log in, they have to reset that password. Then this is only true for local users. Any externally authenticated user, you can't set a password for inside of ESS. You have to use your external provider.
Okay, any other questions? All right. Okay, so I think I am now at, I think we talked about that and expenses. I think I'm down here with the, oh, no, that I already did that one. Leave time configuration. That's where I left off. And I believe that this probably should be matching what they have in what they're using in USPS. So if they have, if the district is doing daily increments, edit here, and what they're using there, I would think it'd be wise to make sure that you have the same setup in ESS that they have in USPS. So it has daily increments set up and hourly increments set up in here. Leave type configuration. So this is very similar to what you saw in kiosk, and I can see the options in kiosk right now. And so this allows you to specify specific leave types and what you want or what is needed for those specific ones when they create their leave request. So just to cover some of this, and this will all be documented as well. And I'll pick on the professional leave. So right now, when you create a leave request, by default, it's going to have all these leave types available. So when I'm in there creating a leave request and I click on the leave type, because these are all checked, they will all be displayed. And so if let's say, I'm going to pick on professional leave, if I want a reason that that they're required to enter in the reason, I can check this. And when they, after they select the professional leave type, they can't submit that leave without putting in the reason why, going to this conference, and specifying that information. With the default substitute needed, so that will require them to put that information in about the default substitute. So again, if they're going away and they're using that, in ESS for substitutes, then they can check mark this. Capture expense, where I was talking about the expense information earlier. If this is checked, then when they go to create a professional leave request, it's going to have all that expense information, mileage information, and the stuff that they're going to need in order to complete their expense request. Subcategory required. And so the subcategory, this one I had to kind of dig through a little bit. So does your leave have a subcategory that's required? So if, in personal leave, let's say, the district has certain categories that they want them to fill in for personal leave. Was it a family emergency, something like that, or, sick leave, and specify a certain subcategory, medical appointment, something like that. Then that is set up in another area, and we'll talk about subcategories under the leave management menu. But once those are set up, then they can say that they have to have a subcategory required. And then when you create the leave, they'll see an additional option after they select the leave type to enter in that subcategory. Disallow blackout dates. So basically, what this means is if you don't want a specific leave types, initial leave request to be submitted because of a blackout date that's been set up, those are set up under our leave management, then you can check mark this so that a leave doesn't go through for a blackout date. And we'll get into blackout dates when we get into this menu option later. And require cancellation. And obviously, before I get onto that one, blackout dates are probably dates they have set up in USPS. So they're just making sure that those same dates are in ESS. All right. And the required cancellation, obviously, I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. When they cancel a leave request, do you want a reason required as to why? When they cancel it, and we'll show that information later, how they cancel a leave request, it'll pop up, and they will have to put in a reason why they're canceling it. So those are kind of the leave type configurations. Like I said, it can be controlled per type. So it's pretty versatile. And that's kind of the way that it behaved in kiosk to begin with. Okay. So, hey, I didn't do too bad. I was hoping it would take me a half hour to get through all of that information under the system menu. I know there's a lot. And before I take you to the users, I just want to show you where our user manual is at. So if I actually go back to our main page here, and I don't think I have it public yet, but it's going to be, before the end of the weekend, we're going to have the employee self-service documentation alphabetically in here. And, we'll have the user manual, we'll link the installation guide and stuff like that in here. But I have a shell of a user manual out here right now, lots to do. But when you actually click on the main page here, it kind of goes in and talks about logging in, and also has all of the different options, the menu options here with links to those chapters. They're also, if you've got it set up with your menu bar over here, you'll see that information in here as well. But like I said, we've got a lot to work on in here, but I can click on particular area and it's going to take me to that chapter and explain that. If you see some stuff in red, it's because there are probably notes in regards to maybe upcoming JIRA issues, which I think most of these have already been completed. So we're going to be cleaning that up, obviously, and getting rid of that. But one thing I want you guys to know is we do appreciate feedback on this. So if, like I said, we do have an appendix, and that's probably the place we really need feedback. And this is just not, this is a hot mess right now. But we're going to have the ability to have FAQs out here and stuff like that. And so if, there are things that you guys feel would be helpful to have for your end users, let us know. And we'll try and see if we can work that into our appendix, probably is where most of that stuff's going to go. And obviously, give us a little time to get this user manual up to snuff, and then you guys will be able to, provide feedback for any of the chapters. Okay, so before I move on to the users, that's where I'm going to go next. Do you guys have any other questions? Let me scroll back here. Do you have any system requirements published or something you can give us? My IT department keeps asking if they can prepare for the initial release. So Sarah, I'm assuming that maybe you're just talking about maybe the installation guide and just getting the specifics on that. And Mark, I don't know, is this a public document yet, or you're still working on this?
That is first draft.
Okay. So, this will be out there. And I believe too, you have to log in using your username and passwords that you guys have set up in Atlassian in order to see this information, right, Mark? Is that what you said?
Yes, I think that is the case.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, this will be available. So. Okay. So I'm going to move from the system manager manual, or listen to me, system manager manual, system menu into the user menu here. And I am going to discuss users, and then Mary's going to take over and go into our groups and group chain setup. Let me click on users here. Okay, so this are the users that we have created so far in here. But as you can see, we have a nice filter row here where they can filter. We also have in a lot of the grids, you'll see the more column over here. This reminds me a lot of inventory and ITCM, the same information here. So that's pretty sweet. And so obviously we do have an admin, and then we do have a bunch of users that we have created. So I am going to click on create. And I do have another question here where we start that. Sorry if I missed this, but when we were walking through the configuration, is the information that currently in kiosk going to come over with the districts that have their configurations set up once migrated? We have some, Ashley. And so we're going to have let me get out of here for a minute. We're going to have the users. Those are going to convert over. And definitely the groups and the group chains. So a lot of work right there taken care of with the conversion. And then we just have a couple other minor ones that are going to come over as well, such as URLs and I believe the subcategories that they had set up in kiosk, those will come over as well. So not everything that was in kiosk is going to come over, but a lot of the setup, like with users and their roles and groups and workflows are going to, you'll have the ability to get that information, extracted out of kiosk, and then you'll be able to import that information into ESS using the kiosk load I talked about earlier.
Michelle, we are looking at the other configuration information too. The initial extracts that we received from the legacy kiosk side did not include any of that data. So we've been unable to really do anything on our side as of yet, but we just got new data from them that we're looking at. But it is our intention to try to support bringing over allowing for the import of as much of that configuration data as possible. Whether that will be there from day one, unclear, depends on, where we are in terms of getting those imports stood up, but we are planning to release very frequently post the first early access release. So that will be something that, we'll add in if we don't have time to make that available pre the very first early access release.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, did we address, Sarah had a question about system requirements. Did we address that one?
I believe so. That was in the that's going to be part of the installation guide. Is that
Okay.
correct?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I probably just missed that conversation. I apologize.
Okay. So with the users, like I said, you're going to be have the ability to convert those users from kiosk in here. Sarah did note that she looked at the installation guide, but it doesn't include server requirements. Are we planning on putting that information in?
Yeah, it may not be added yet, but I will say we're looking at probably about 2 gigs is what we're shooting for as an initial minimum. Some of this is a little hard to gauge until we actually have some real load on the servers to know. But that's kind of where we're like general rule of thumbs, looking at about 2 gigs for these instances.
All right, thank you.
And that's memory, obviously. The server storage impact is relatively small. We are, as some of those sync jobs that you saw that Mark briefly talked about, we are caching some data. So there will be some storage utilized based on that data caching, and that's really being done because initially we're trying not to really cache any data at all inside of the employee self-service application and just directly retrieve everything from USPS. But we found in certain instances that could relate in some performance slowdowns. So in an effort to make things as performant as possible, we're caching a minimal amount of data so that we don't have to go back to USPS for every single piece of data every time we display it. But it's still pretty minimal in terms of what we're storing. So I wouldn't expect storage to be an issue at all in terms of resource requirements.
Okay. So with users, like I said, you will have capability of converting those over from kiosk. They will come in with their roles, and we're going to do our best to make sure that those roles that they had in kiosk match the roles that we have in ESS. So with this as well, if you need to create users at this point, admin only role can create users. Admin and district managers can both see the users. the user grid here that I'm showing here, but only admin at this point will be able to. If someone's going to ask about self-registration, like they used to be able to do in kiosk, we do have a JIRA issue for that. It's 246. So, you know, that's something that we're going to be able to do. You can follow that JIRA issue. I'm just going to go ahead and just, and like I said, it's got the filter in here where you can narrow down things, and it's got the images here that are very similar to what you're used to seeing in inventory and ITCM. But I'm going to go ahead and just click on create so you can kind of see what this looks like if a new account needs to be created. And so it's going to require the first, middle, last name. It's not going to require the middle, but the first and last name. Anything that's a little bullet next to it are the required fields. So you're going to be entering that information in, as well as a username. Here's where the username is going to be entered in. And email. So this is the email address that'll be used when they submit leaves. It's going to email setup. It's going to send an email to them. Here's where the external authentication and the two-factor ones are set up. So if they use Duo, you know, they'll be able to make sure that this is checked. If they use a Windows AD, they'd be using the external authentication and ensuring that that's checked. We do have account expiration and password expiration areas as well here. It'll show when it was created. But to get things going, you know, you're going to have to, you're going to want to pull that employee from USPS. And I believe the format of how this window is displayed right now is going to change. I believe we're going to move the select employees up to the top. So I can go in and pull a specific employee, and it's going to pull it up. And I also believe one of our newer enhancements is going to pre-populate some of this with their information from the employee record in USPS. So that's how I believe that's going to work. So this is going to change. It's been improved, actually. And then from here is where we have the roles. And by default, every user will have the standard user role. And that demo that I'm including in the newsletter is going to show with somebody with just the standard role how they maneuver around the ESS application. But if I go ahead and click here, you'll be able to see all the different roles that we have. And believe me, we're working hard on getting all of those out there with an explanation. And also, Mary and I are getting more comfortable with, you know, selecting one of these specific roles and seeing how it behaves in the software and stuff. So, so all of that information will be put into the documentation. We have some of the roles up, but yes, included in there. But you know, we are going to be adding more. And we do have a couple other questions here. So login in username is not necessarily their email address if the user is set to something different. And Mark said that's correct. Okay, so I am going to cancel out of here, and I'll just go into one of these that we already have here. I'm going to pick on one that I know has more roles. And so with this particular one, Pam has, and you can assign multiple roles just like you could in kiosk. So these are the different roles that she has available. And like I said, we are going to document these so you know what happens when you add the lead manager role, because it's going to change their menu. They're going to have the lead management options and the submenus underneath that available for them. And I know that also in kiosk, you may have had more than one person as lead manager. So I'm not quite sure like how many people in the district would be assigned a lead manager role, but it's not limited. to a specific person. So you can add it to as many as the district feels that's needed. So yeah, so all of these roles, user versus an approver versus the leave manager versus the district manager, those are all going to be explained in our roles documentation. All right. So I wanted to there were a couple things I wanted to tell you about. Like I said, we've got improved functionality, so things are going to change a little bit on that actual screen. Nancy has a question. Sorry if I missed it, but it's still going to be self-registering. Not at this point, no. The admin users will be creating the new accounts, the kiosk for now, but we do have a JIRA issue for that, Nancy. And that is ESS 246. So let's see here. I think that's about all I really had to cover. Let me go through here. So, and I know somebody asked about the bulk reset password, to reset, mass reset passwords, that's issue 469. So otherwise, the user is going to be using that forgot password link on their login screen. Mary's going to go into also the profile area here too, and we can talk about some of the information that can be set up when we get into leave requests with setting default times and stuff like that. So there'll be a few extra things the user can do that'll affect how things appear on the system. Let's see. All the Duo and AD information is explained in the installation guide and how all of that gets set up on the application properties file. So again, those particular items on the actual user count will need to be checked as well, as I explained before, if they're using Duo or external authentication. Okay, before Mary gets started, I just want to skip down to the API access token, and I may need to phone a friend on this, Mark and Matt on this one. But I believe what the AP access token is just, it's going to allow them, basically informing them that there is somebody, let me open it up here, where you're basically pulling a user, which I'm assuming is a third-party user account that you have created. And it's basically letting the system know that they're basically able to integrate with the ESS application. Am I close, Matt and Mark, on that one?
Yeah, that is correct. The idea here is you'll, when integrating with a third party, if they're using the REST endpoint, they will need a token connected to a user so that they can just pass the token back and forth with all of their API calls, but inside the system, we know that that token belongs to a specific user so that auditing can track where it came from. Outside of that, if there is nobody using the REST API, which right now the only option is to post leave requests, then there is no need for an API access token.
Thank you. All right, any questions specifically about the users before I switch this over to Mary so she can talk about groups and group chains? All right, Mary, I'm going to stop sharing here. Can we still impersonate a user? We do have a JIRA issue for that, Jen. And at the end of today's session, I'm going to go into the ESS JIRA issues and the feedback issues and just kind of show you all of that. And we can look that one up and see which issue that is, but I know we have an existing issue out there for that. All right, I'm going to stop sharing.
Hello, everybody. Hope you all have a wonderful Friday after this. So right now I'm going to demo a little bit of the groups and how you would set those up. You are going to be able to import those in during the conversion process. And then after that, they can be hand created if you need others, or if you need to make adjustments or changes. Also, the person who will be doing that will need to have the role of the leave approval automated workflow manager. I can show you that real quick. So in here, it would be this one, this workflow manager option. If I go too fast, please tell me. So in the groups, think about these as the group approvers. These will be the people that for each group that you set up will be approving or receiving notifications for the leave once it's put into a group chain. And the group chain is like your workflow. So in the group, I can do the same things as that we've done on the other screens. I can filter to kind of limit what I'm seeing. And I also have this waffle here for which fields I want to see on the screen. Then I can view how something's already set up. So I'll just look at this one here, the custodial approvers. And this one was set up with, you have to fill in the name. You can give it a description if you like. And one of the most important parts is the and or. And this refers to the approvers in the group. So if I had two approvers and I say and, both of those approvers would need to approve the leave before it goes to the next level in the group chain. In this case, I would have one approver and a read-only access with the notification, which a lot of workflows are set up that way inside of Kiosk. So I'll show you another one. And in this case, we'll go into the edit mode, which looks exactly the same. But in this mode, I can make changes if I need to. So if I don't want this person to be an approver, I would go in and change it to that and add another approver. Every group of approvers has to have at least one approver in it. I'm going to cancel out of this because we'll be using this later. If I'm no longer, I'm going to say, if I'm no longer using a group, then I can go in here to delete it. You will not be able to delete the group if it's being used in a group chain, so that doesn't break the group chain. That's basically everything you need to know about setting up a group. So I'd like to know if you have any questions about that part. And these are the groups of approvers, or the people that are going to be notified of a leave that someone enters. Okay, I'm gonna move on then to group chains. When you click on the group chain area, you have the same looking grid. You can create from here. You can control your fields that you want to see. And you can view a group chain. So let's take a look at the secretary one, because we're going to use that one later. So this one has 2 levels in it. This is the name of the chain that we created and the workflow, the description. And this tells me the priority of it. These are the available groups in the system that we've already created, and this will be the ones that we select to put over here. So if I wanted to create a 3rd level here, I can move this group over, but I can't do it in the view. See how it doesn't let me do it? So right now I'm in a view option. So in here I have the first group, which is the secretary leave approver. And then the second group, which I added, was the superintendent approver. Once the chain is created, you also have to define who goes into the chain. So I'm going to get to that in 1 minute. I'm going to close out of this a second and go back to this grid and finish telling you about this part. This would be the edit. This can raise or lower the priorities. And then this will delete. Priorities work a little differently here in ESS. As you can see, I have 3 level 1s here, and then a 4 priority and a 5. If they are all 1s, I believe it'll still work okay, as long as somebody doesn't fall into a particular workflow more than once. If they fall into a workflow, like, let's say they fall into the secretaries and the teacher's aide workflow, the way you have it set up, it will go in alphabetical order as to which one they land in for good. So they would end up in the secretary's workflow if it's position 1 in this case. And if the teacher workflow was after that, they wouldn't go through that workflow. So you can change the priority here. You can make that go to 4, make this one go to 5. So they can all change based on these priorities. If I want to edit something, I would go into this edit. And right now I have a teacher's aide and approver group in there, and then a superintendent as the next level. If I wanted to add another level, I can take that and move it over here. Just dragging it across. If I wanted more than one, I could click on 2 of them and move them over. If I no longer want that one there, I would move it back this way. So these are the ones that are available, and these are the ones that we're using for this group chain. Once I decide, I'm going to cancel out of this and go to the secretary one, since that's the one I'd like to use in our example later. I have the secretary approver and then the superintendent approver. And then I have to define who goes into that group, which users are going to be in the secretary workflow. So one option here is the leave types. If you leave it blank, it's going to select all those leave types. So if you want to, I know some in kiosk have like a particular leave type, it goes to one person for approval. And if the rest of the leaves, sick and personal and all that, go to a different person for approval. So you can still do that in here. You can pick specific employees to put into that group chain. And you'd have to select them from the drop-down list. Or you can pick a combination of group, department code, and building code. These can all be blank, except for one, and I believe this one has the pay group that we picked, was Wisteria 2. And please take into consideration we're using anonymized data, so some of this is going to look really strange. But I did not pick a department. I don't care which department the secretaries are in. I'm just picking that pay group. And the same with the building codes. I didn't pick one of those, but you can. And that would be an and combination. So if I pick the pay group and the building code, it would be this and this would go to this particular workflow. Let's see. I think I covered everything on that screen. If you guys noticed that I missed something, please tell me. Does anyone have questions about that? So we would have the group and the group chain set up to complete the workflow process. Okay, I'm doing notes too, so excuse me when I flip over here. We are going to recommend, once everything is converted or done, that you create a group. Let me see if I need to create the group first. Yeah. That will catch any leave that is not falling into one of the other group chains. And then I will select here an OR. And this is really important. Selecting the OR and then selecting a manager group. What this will do is send a request or the notification to all the leave managers. And if you have it set up as an OR, any one of them can approve the leave and it'll go through. If you have it set up as an AND, all the leave managers would have to approve it before it would go through. So I'm going to add that to the group and create that. And then I'm going to go to the group chain and create a group chain. And that is. So now this one I can make a higher priority or a lower priority by making it a higher number. And it'll be the last item in my group chains, in my workflow. And Mark, if I'm not wrong, you don't have to select anything from here, is that correct?
That is correct. Those are all optional. And
so I'm going to create that. And now that's the last item in my group chains. So if the person that puts the leave in doesn't hit any one of these workflows, it'll land in here. And then they will at least have somebody who sees their request, the leave request. Okay, if there's no questions on groups and group chains, I'm going to move to the regular menu, and I'm going to bring over Brent here. So this would be what the user would see. And they would see on their dashboard, this is the home dashboard, all the announcements and any custom links. In the next person that I log in as, you'll be able to also see leave that they would need to approve. So, oh, I actually do have the wrong person here. I apologize. I'll sign out of that. See how the screen looks different. Brent was just a user and Brenda is a approver. So they can look at the message that came in on the announcement board, and Michelle showed you where you can configure that under the system menu. And they can see any leave if they are an approver, or the view with notify option. Folks, like if I was a secretary and I could see whose leave has come up here. You can view the exact information that they entered in from here. And you can see the details, which shows the days and how much they're taking in the day. If I'm an approver, I can approve from this screen. But I'm not going to do that right now for this example. I'm just showing you what's on the home screen. The person that can see this would need to have the leave supervisor for staff and the leave request approval role, or the leave request approval role. They can do it individually here, but under this other area, they'll be able to approve in mass if they have the leave request approval role. There is a ESS 417 issue that addresses this, where they can do the mass approval. So the other item in here is the custom links. So I could click on here and see the manual that is set up. Except for I'd have to log in and I didn't, so I apologize for that. And the link administrator would be the one, the district manager and the custom link manager role can add information into this area under that system configuration menu. Okay, that's all that is on the home screen. I'm going to move to what I call the employee profile. And at the bottom of the screen here, if the user clicks on their icon next to their name, they can either sign out from this area or they can take a look at their profile. They also can edit the profile. So certain things on here, if I would like to have defaulted into the leave request, similar to what's in kiosk, I can type something in here. For my phone number, that'll be my default phone number. My start and end hours, I can do that as well. And then I'd have to switch this to PM. It displays for me my roles. Those are all the roles I have. And then I also have two more options here that are checkboxes. The dark mode and the opt out of leave request email. So I can opt out of email requests if I want to, but that's not really a good idea for someone who has to do approvals unless they're always going to be in the system. And then dark mode will turn all the screens that they look at into the dark background with light writing. And once they like what they see, they can save it. I'm going to take that back off. And then the other thing they can do from here is reset password, but that's only for local authentication people. If they're using something else like AD, then they would not be able to reset their passwords here. So I'm going to go ahead and save that for her. The employee profile is the next area. I'm sorry, is there any questions first on that section? Okay. The profile shows all the information, it displays information that is in USPS. So the first tab is the name and other identifiable information for that person. The next tab are the contacts. Contact information, which is the email address and the city state. The next tab are the employee dates. And then the next one is the qualifications, years of experience, educational, all that. Inside of the ESS manual, there is a crosswalk that's going to be in the documentation, and it will show you where the information is coming from USPS. And again, what shows on these screens, Michelle touched on this earlier, is defined in the configuration screen under employee. So it'll be a configuration and then employee profile screen. If the employee then wants to make some changes, they look at this and they say, yeah, I don't want to be called Jasmine anymore. I want a different first name in here. They can create a request to have the information changed. It will default what's currently in there, and then they can go in and change it. And I think I moved, so I'm going to change my address. So I'm going to say, and I'm still in the same city and state. I don't need to change any of these dates. Those are all correct. And my qualifications are correct as well. So once I enter that information, I could submit the data change request here. Now, the person that will be able to see that is the change. We'll have to have the, excuse me, the data change manager role. And then they'll be able to see the changes and make approve or reject those changes as necessary. Excuse me. Once that information is updated in USPS, the next time that the employee logs in, then they'll be able to see those changes. And I'm going to show you, because it's her, she's the one that has that access. I'll show you what's in here. So under the data change management option, she is able then to see all the people that want something changed. And I'll go look at Brent. I did this one yesterday, I believe, or this morning. They want to change their name from Brent Carl to Brianna Carly, first and middle. And my guess is somebody did something that drastic, they would reject it and then go research it, or just sit there with it until they can research it before they make a change like that. So but it'll show you what the changes are and what screen by having this green bar around them. The second page I did was the address information and the phone number. So for this person, then they would need to decide whether they want to approve or reject. And then to show you what we just did with Brenda, she wanted to be changed from Jasmine to Jazzy, and then from her address to this new address. So once those changes are made, the next time they log in, if they are approved, then they will show up in their screen. Are there any questions on making changes to the employee profile? Okay, moving on to position details. On this screen, the employee can see which positions are brought over from USPS. And again, that is configured in the system menu. And if I want to see detail, both of these are brought over because they chose to bring over inactive and the active. And if I want to see details about the position, I can click on that arrow and it'll show me everything that I need to see about that person, that position. And including and especially this area here, what they're eligible for on their leave, because that's real important. And then on the group chains where you were able to filter by department code, that's listed here so that you can see if it pulled in the correct departments. That also shows the supervisor's name and email address, and that's important as well on the approvals. It looks at the supervisor that's loaded in USPS and it loads it in here. So these are display only fields. One difference between kiosk and employee self-service is that they are not required to have a supervisor in their position. So that's why we created that catch-all in the group chains. So that if they happen to not have it set up yet correctly, or for whatever reason they don't have a supervisor, there's other situations where they would not, then their leave would still flow through the group chain and an approver would have to approve their leave. Once the information, if any position information is changed in USPS, you won't see it until the employee logs in again the next time. So are there any questions on the position detail screen? Okay, for this one, I want to go to a different person. And let's, whoops. So for the next section, we're going to talk about pay slips and W-2s. So they can look at a pay slip. You can filter for a particular pay date if you want. And a payment number. You are able to download the PDF if you want, or you can just show it on the screen. And so that's an example of what it would look like if you just showed it on the screen. And currently, I do not have a sample of a print W-2, but they would be listed here by year on this screen. So they can go in and look at their own W-2s and pay slips, and they don't have to bother the HR department. Okay, any questions there? Okay. Now I'm going to go into creating a leave or the leave information, and I'm going to show you a different person. So if I go into the screen that says leave information, all these items on this screen are coming from and being updated by USPS for all three of these tabs. So I'll have my leave balances on the first screen. And then I have my absences that have already been exported to USPS. It's not going to look at anything that's even approved but not exported. So in any other status other than exported, you won't see it here. So only exported items because this is coming from USPS. And then we also have an accumulation tab, which shows you which items have been updated from USPS as far as their accumulations. So I can look here and filter for just sick accumulations. And it would show me all of the accumulations. And you can also filter by the start date and stop date. And the type. So I'm gonna clear that out and show you like the personal. So this shows me all the personal accumulations they had. You can do the same thing under the absences. So if I wanted to just see sick absences, this is what I would see. And I can also limit them by the start date and stop date. So let's do that one. So let's say I wanted to just go from 2020 here. And then it'll show me everything after 2020. I could also sort by half days, full days if I needed to. Oops, right there. So all my half days will come up to the top and then the full days. And then you can filter by the daily and hourly if they have more than one position. Okay. Any questions on those screens? Okay, the last item that I'll be talking about is how to create a leave request, and then we'll follow it through the workflow. So in the leave request area, they can they can see their leave requests. So this one is one that is created for Nicole's own purposes. And since she's a supervisor, she'll be able to view the people that she supervises and all their leave. And then she has a role that she can also export leave requests from here. So I'm going to go in and create a leave request. But first I'm gonna log in as Brent. So let me do that first, and then we'll look at it from Nicole's lens as well, because she'll be receiving that. Okay, so I'm gonna go in, and for Brent, I'm gonna create a leave request. And it drops in the position of secretary, but they can choose which position depending on what the district brought over. The leave type I want to use, I'll just use sick. And then it'll show me the balance before the request. And I'm going to pick a day that I probably haven't used yet. Let's do June 7th. And my default times popped in. So I have 7:30 to 3:30, and I can change that if I'm gonna enter, you know, like a half day. The amount of time requested, I'm gonna take a whole day. My phone number dropped in, and I don't really need to make a comment here. Since I'm done, it's showing also my supervisor, but this is gonna go through the workflow, the secretary's workflow. It tells me that the leave was created. So now I'm going to go look at my leave requests. Here's my June 7th request. It's initiated in the initiated status. So I can see the details from here. And I can see the approval trail, which right now is just submitted. And then the details for that day. And since I only picked one day, I have just June 7th there. I'm going to go ahead and create a leave request that's multiple days so you can see the little grid that pops up for that. And I'll just pick sick again. The dates I'm going to put in for this will be June 27th. And I'll make it through the 28th. I'm going to take 2 days sick. And actually, I'm going to make this do that. I'll do half days. And then I'm going to create the leave. And it brings up this little grid where I can tell it. Yeah, I did that wrong. I meant to put that in as one. Okay. Now I can create my leave. But I really don't want to take a whole day just on Thursday. I want to do Thursday half a day and Friday half a day. And then I can accept that. And it created my 2 half days. If I go in and look at my leave requests again, I can see on the 27th and 28th, I have 1 day off. And an approver might look at that and say, oh, why is that only 1 day instead of 2? So they can go in here and view that. It'll show 1 day. It shows that it's submitted by Brent, and then it shows on the daily details that it's a half day each day. Okay, so that's Brent putting in his leave request. Now I'm going to sign out from Brent. And in the workflow that we had earlier from the secretary's workflow, and Joyce was the approver, and the superintendent was the second level approver in the group chain. So I can show you that again. So here's the group chain. And if I want to view that, I can see the first approver was, this is where Nicole's at. And then the superintendent is Hatfield. And if I need to see that, I go back to my groups to look at it. So in the groups, I would see my secretary approvers, Joyce. And then my second level approver was the superintendent, and that's Hatfield. So when I log in as Nicole, on my dashboard, I will see down here at the bottom, June 7th was the day we added in. That was the single day. And then June 27th and 28th was half days. Now I can go right in here, look at that, and go ahead and approve it. And I guess I'll do that right here. Let's see. Or I can go into this leave request approval area. And in this area, I'd be able to mass approve all the ones that I have the ability to approve. I'm also someone who can see on another workflow that's the view and notify. But I can't approve it because I'm not the approver in that particular group. I'm just seeing these. These will disappear after the approver approves them. So they'll stay on their screen until the actual approver approves them, and then they'll go away. These here, I can approve all at one time. But in this case, I'm just going to do the 27th and 28th for Brent. I can either reject or approve, but I'm going to approve his. So that's one thing that she can do there. She can also look at her leave calendars. She'll have her own calendar here, and then the supervisor calendar here. So as you can see, I put a lot of information in for Brent. Poor Brent's never at work. So I go to June, and I can see on her calendar that the 7th is here on Friday, and then the 27th and 28th is here. And if you click into them, you can see the details of what the absence is. Okay, now I'm gonna log in as Brent to show you something on his screen. So if I want to see where are my leave requests, what status are they in? If I look at June 7th here, it still shows initiated, even though Nicole approved it, right? And on both of these. So if I go in there and look at this and say, why is it still just, initiated and not approved? I can look at the leave request approval trail and see that I submitted it on this day and time, and then Nicole approved it on this day and time. So you ask yourself, why doesn't it say approved on the request status? Well, it still has one more level to go. And the same thing for the 2-day. I'm sorry, this one here, the 2-day. It's the same thing. The approval trail shows submitted and approved by Nicole. So if a user wants to see where their leave request is, they can do that. I'm going to go into the second level of the approver, who is Hatfield. And Hatfield will see Brent's requests up on her dashboard as well, or she can go to the leave request approval area. But I'm going to go ahead and put these through here. And I can just say approve. And I don't have to put a note in, I just did on the other two, but she doesn't like to put notes, so we won't put notes for her. So she's approved both of those absences. And let me see if I needed to show you anything as her. Now I need to go back in and look at Brent's leave again. And Brent says, okay, I'm going to look at my June information, see if it's been approved. Goes into my leave requests again. And now it says approved for the 7th and the 2-day 27 and 28. And if I want to see the level approvals again, I go to leave request approval trail. Brent initiated, Joyce approved it that day, and then Pam approved it after that, which completed the group chain. If I'm deciding that, oh, I don't want to really take the 3rd off anymore. I'm really not sick. As long as it's still in the initiated status, I can come over here and cancel my request right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. You sure you want to cancel? Yes. And then it'll show up as canceled. If you want to change or edit a request, you can do that as well. So let me try to do that. I'm not sure if I'm gonna hit a good day here because I just deleted the one that I was probably gonna use. But I can change something on here, but if it's still in the initiated status. Okay, so let's just say I really didn't want to take the 18th off. I need to take the 17th. So I change it to the 17th. Well, let me leave the 17th and 18th first. Let me show you this part of the screen too. So now it opens up the 17th and the 18th instead of having just the 18th here. And if you notice, these are not editable, and that's because they're not part of that leave request. So I can say, all right, I want to take a half a day there and a half a day here instead. And then I can click on save. And as long as I don't have something on the 17th, it should work. Okay, that went through. So June, is it the 17th? Here it is, or April 17th. Still one day. But it's over 2 days, the half days. And then that will restart the approval process. And Matt, if I'm not wrong, it kind of shows, let me go back in there. It shows that something was canceled under the leave request approval. It shows that, oh, it shows it's been edited. Then it shows canceled here, and it restarts the approval process again so that the manager would know, okay, he's doing something different with this date, with the 17th and 18th. And they can also look at the details here. And then Michelle brought up the fact, oh, and let me look at, I did show you the calendar, sorry. So a user can see their own calendar and that's it. The approvers can see their calendar plus who they supervise. And Michelle did bring up the fact that I should show you a leave that uses that professional expenses grid. So let's try that. Oh boy, to find a day. Let's go back to March. I hope I didn't pick any. Let's do 26th. Okay, March 26th. And it's only going to be for one day. And it's going to be the whole day. And then, as you can see, because of the checkbox on the configuration screen, that professional had the expenses checkbox clicked on. So now it's giving me this information here that I need to fill out. And some of it is required, like the city and state. I can put information in here. Meals, $15. Lodging. No other expenses. Mileage, 50 miles. And the amount would pop in from the configuration screen. Currently it's set at 0, so they're getting nothing. Is that right? No, I'm sorry. Here it is down here, 0.650. Now, when I hit calculate, it'll give me the 32.5 and the total amount of the estimated costs. I could fill in budget and lodging numbers if I know those. I think we picked 300. You know, Michelle, I wrote those down. I don't remember them. Whoops. I'll just pick something here. And then the lodging amount. 210. And then I can pick a mileage account as well. Not sure if the users actually know this or not. Then I can fill in the event location. In the city. And I don't have a vendor. And then I can just save this. Create my leave request. Uh-oh. I forgot to tell it why I'm going. And then let's try again and see what else I forgot. Uh-oh. Yes. Oh, yeah, I meant to tell you this too. If they try to create a leave request in the past, it will give them this message, which is good in case they are on the wrong month. But in this case, I do want it to be in the past. So I can go ahead and create it. And it tells me the operation was successful. And I'll go back to Nicole. Under, and Michelle will go over this, under the leave management area, there is a leave expense report. So I'll leave that for Michelle. Any questions? Okay, I'm gonna stop my share because now it's gonna go to Michelle.
Thanks, Mary. Okay. Get everything set up back here for me. And I know that Mark has been busy answering questions in the chat, so thank you all. And good information in there. Okay, just got a few things and we're going to wrap this up here. The custom links and the announcement manager and the leave request approval. Mary already covered that information. So when we were on the home screen and we saw the custom links, that is coming from the actual custom link area here, where they're basically going to be able to manage the custom links in here. So if I just click on this, you'll see that the user manual is already created as a link. We also have a managed whitelist. So basically this means that those are whitelisted or, trustworthy websites. Maybe the district's website would be a whitelisted website. That could be listed in here. Otherwise, those that aren't whitelisted, they may get some kind of navigation notification saying you are about to go into this website. So maybe a website outside of the district. So that's basically what that whitelist does. With the announcement manager, there is a role for this. So they have to have, so they'll have somebody in the district that is in charge of this. And this is where they create those announcements. So we've got ESS preview. And so again, if I go back out to my homepage, I have the ESS preview that has all that information. So going back to the announcement manager, I'm just going to edit this so you can kind of see. So what's nice is it does have an expiration date. So after so long, if there's an announcement, graduation, and they have an announcement or something on there that they want to post, and they want it to expire at the end of May, they can enter in the expiration date and put this in here. And you'll notice too that it can, they can get pretty creative in here as well as to how they want that to look. So that's nice. And Mary covered the leave request approval for those approvers that they can use that to request their leave. So that's great. And leave management. So I do want to talk about the leave management, and this would be for those that have the role of leave manager, district manager, and admin people can see this option as well. And so these are some of the things that they're able to do as a leave manager. So they are going to see an extra menu option here. So the blackout dates, I don't have any set right now, but if I click on this, I could go in and enter in specific blackout dates. And these are basically, I think they are referring to USPS in regards to the calendars in USPS for those blackout dates. And then they can enter that information in here with the start and ending, with the leave types that they want. If they don't put anything in here at all, I believe it'll accept all of them. But they can be specific about the leave type they want as a blackout date. And then underneath here too, they can add kind of similar to, and this is new, I haven't seen all of this yet. And so this is kind of similar to what we were seeing with our things that they can select as to certain pay groups. So if I want that pay group, I want a blackout date for certain pay groups, I can add those pay groups in here. It's similar to like our groups, group chains here. Same format, and they can select those specific ones, and the blackout date will be held to those specific groups or departments or employees. So they can be pretty creative with the blackout dates. With that as well, they can the escalate, I believe, they can mass approve. Oh, I'm sorry. In here. The escalate flag is set if you allowed users to post leave to back to blackout dates. If the escalate flag is set, it will bypass the workflow and send it to the leave manager directly for approval. That's what that does. And then obviously you have the enabled flag in there too to enable that blackout date. So we have that. We also have an escalated approval. So leave manager can go in and mass approve leave. Basically, I believe this is bypassing the workflow process, and it will automatically approve it. So I've got some people out here where the leave manager can go in and select those and mass approve them, and it goes bypasses the workflow, and those get approved automatically. I think most of the time it's going through the proper workflows to get approved. But if there's like an emergency situation that they need to bypass that and escalate approval to mass approve them, they can do that. Subcategories. So I talked about this a little bit earlier when we were in the configuration and those requiring subcategories when they're creating a leave request. This is where they're setting them up. So the leave manager can go in and create subcategories. So here's the one that I had created earlier, and it's in regards to the personal leave type. So when they select personal leave, it's going to populate the different subcategories for that leave. So if the district wants them to go in and select, family emergency, they've got that subcategory to choose from in order to complete their leave. So again, too, we've got active to enable this subcategory, so it does appear when they select personal leave, and then we have the reason required, meaning they have to enter something in there in the reason field. So, and then the leave expenses is what Mary was just talking about. Oh, and I probably, issue with that one. That's been fixed. But in here is where they're going in and entering in the information for that leave expense that's in when they create the leave. All that information's in here. So sorry I can't show you that now, but that has been fixed. The data change management. So when Mary was talking about the employee profile and people changing stuff, it doesn't obviously doesn't automate and automatically go to payroll. The data change management role, that person will be able to see this. And what happens then is they'll be able to review these. So let's say I just select this one here. And then they can approve them. When it's approved, though, at that point, I'm not 100% sure if that goes. I don't know if that gets automatically updated into USPS at that time. I think they approve them, and then I think there might be a notification in regards to the payroll office, but I don't know. I don't know, Mark, if you can comment on it a little bit more on what happens to that once they approve these data change management options.
So once they're approved, that little button there that's next to the I. If you hover over it, I don't know if it doesn't appear there's a detail. Yeah, you can approve one, see if it brings it up. Yeah, so that will then allow you to post that data change to USPS. It's not currently automated. And it's not a part of the actual approval. It's a two-step process. And you can do that, but I can tell you that the behind the scenes change for that is not in place yet.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I just had to do one extra step, right? And then I got it. And then I feel like I'm missing one here. And I believe it might have to do with, there we go. I know I'm missing something because we're doing all this work in ESS and it's like, how do you get it into USPS? And we have an export leave request option here. And so for that person that has that role, which is probably the payroll person in the treasurer's office, they can go in and they can be specific here and put in date ranges, or they can narrow it down into specific billings, leave types, whatever, to filter this. And then they can export the leave request. And I believe right now it exports it into like a CSV option. I don't believe we have the option to directly post into USPS yet. Is that correct, Mark?
That's correct. We are still working on that part of it. I do know when you export, well, when you post directly, you're still going to get a CSV file of whatever was sent to USPS automatically.
Right. So we've got the one-way working where you can do it manually, and then we're going to have another option to post directly, and it will also have the ability of creating an export file. So that's kind of where we're at with that. like I said, we don't really have any of the stuff documented yet, but that's what we're going to be focusing on in the next couple weeks and get this done and ready and out there for you guys. Okay, that's really like what we wanted to show, like in the menu per se. And so what we wanted to finish and wrap things up with is in regards to some of the stuff that's out there in the Jira dashboard. I know you all have access to Jira. You can go in and look. So I just wanted to kind of go into some of that. And I know some of you may have questions about reports. Are we going to have any reporting capabilities in here? And yes, we do have the ability. We are working on some Jira issues in order to create reports. So I thought I would kind of go into my dashboard and go into the core project here for ESS. And, you know, as you can see, we've been very busy in here, but if you recall when we went through how to create your dashboards and your filters and setting things up, I strongly recommend, that you guys do this on these projects, especially, a new one like this, where you create your filter in your dashboard in Jira, and then and you can just select outstanding Jira issues if you want. I've got all of them here. But you can filter the way whatever you want. And what I really like about this is, again, the ability to go in and just start filtering in and putting in something in here, and it's going to pull those Jira issues that contain the word report. And so in here, we've got some that, and you can see right away where we're at with those. So a user listing report, we know that that's one that people will ask about. And so definitely, we've got something lined up already, 310, in order to get a report similar to what we had in the other applications. We have, and just to show you this, we have a reporting Jira issue that's called an epic. So there are going to be issues underneath this one. And these are all the reporting Jira issues that we have so far. So a staff leave request analysis report. So you can tell we haven't started on those yet. They all show as new. But yeah, it's just, we'll probably be building off of this and additional Jira issues in order to get some of that reporting capabilities that you had in Kiosk into ESS. One of the nice things too about Kiosk is that, for ESS, we're going to have, all these filterings available in all of our grids. So that helps as well. And I believe too, I know that with like some of the user information, and I know it's not on here because we don't have that updated instance, but there'll be an export option here, just like you see in inventory on the grids, where you can export information out of here into a spreadsheet in order to make changes. So, yeah, lots of new features and stuff we'll be adding to this. And you can see too, with some of the comments that Mark has added, all the things that we still plan to add, all the functionality. So we're just at the, infancy stage really. And so there'll be a lot of additions made. One of the things that both Matt and Mark talked about was mobile access, being able to like a supervisor to go in on their phone and improve somebody's leave, which is awesome. So that'll be really nice to be able to do that. Here we got another question. Okay, I think you guys are just talking in the chat there. Also, like I said, in our support tickets, we do have an ESS component out there now. So when you are creating feedback information about ESS or just questions in general, we do have an ESS option in here, so that, we can identify that those are related to ESS. And also going back to Jira here, I'm going to go back to my dashboard. You know, I have the Jira issues, and we also have a feedback issue project out there as well, where any issues that are considered feedback will be added here as well. So again, another filter that you can create and put in your dashboard, so you can keep track of the core project and the feedback project. Okay, see if there's anything else. I think that's all we had for today. And like I said, you know, this is going to change. What you're seeing now is probably changed already. And you know, we're excited about it. And like I said, we'll make sure to get that information out to you guys, get the user information, the user manual out there. And we are more than, you know, open for any feedback that you guys have in regards to any of this, or suggestions on maybe a little underneath our appendix, maybe different things for like a supervisor. Here's the things that you can do in here versus, you know, a lead manager, you know. So we're going to be adding all that to help as much as we can, so that people get comfortable with this. So if you guys don't have any further questions, we will have this out here, and I might even break it down a little bit because it is a long training session. Maybe segment this out into the areas that both Mary and I covered. But yeah, if you guys don't have any other information, we appreciate you guys taking the time to go through this with us today, and we will be in touch in regards to ESS. Thanks, everyone.